And then the other thing, the perfect thing about Kristen Wiig, and I feel this about Tina Fey as well. They both can play that like.
I thought he was pausing.
I did too.
It's like, wow, this is dramatic.
I did too. After it lasted about 5 seconds, I was like, uh-oh.
Did you die?
Are you having a stroke? What happened? Chad, if you can hear us, you are so frozen.
Yep.
And it's actually kind of an entertaining image. You should screenshot that, and that should be our promo.
Okay.
Hey.
Hi, you're back.
You're back.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Like right in the middle of that diatribe on Kristen Wiig, all of a sudden it just cut off.
Yeah.
So
You're fine. It happens.
So it was right when you were making the comparison between Tina Fey and Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But you didn't get any information. Like
No,
you
it
just
was
said
like
Tina
Kristen
Fey,
Wiig,
Chris
Tina Fey, and that was it.
and
No,
then nothing.
okay.
Yeah.
And it was great because both of us were waiting for you to finish because it looked like you were just taking a really dramatic pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked just like you were just
There
like
was a lull in your voice, like
yeah, it
went
led
down,
perfectly
and
into
then
it.
it was like,
We were both like,
is he just being very dramatic? Or?
yeah.
I really wanted to make a point.
Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes Podcast, a show that celebrates all things nerdy. You'll get an insider's look into the world of comic books, graphic novels, TV and film, gaming and pop culture, as well as the technologies that drive all of it. Now, are you ready to get nerdy? Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes Podcast, the show about all things nerdy. We discuss nerd news, movies, TV shows, games, comics, and so much more. I'm Brian.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Chad.
And brace yourselves, because we're about to get nerdy. All right, folks. The second review of season 3 is, unfortunately, Wonder Woman 1984. And I say unfortunately, mostly because of the part of it that I've seen. I'm going to say this up front. I didn't get to finish the movie because I had better things to do. But no, I started watching the movie. I got about half hour in and I got distracted. I turned the movie off. And then when I went to pick it back up, it wasn't on HBO Max anymore. And it was nowhere else to be found. And I am not going to go to a movie theater right now. So here we are. But you two watched it, right?
Yes.
You were better than me.
Yes, we were.
I watched it on December 26th. I guess that was
when it like first came out. You were like, I can't wait for this movie. I'm watching it now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Actually,
my condolences.
Sarah and I watched Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman. Like she had never seen any of those. And so
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did she think of those?
She didn't like them particularly because
that makes me sad.
And this is just Zack Snyder's style, but there's a lot of like super fast out of focus movement.
That's true.
And that made her like very dizzy.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't so much that she didn't like the story, it just physically made her ill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which sounds worse.
Right.
This movie was so bad I got sick.
I don't really understand it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really understand that was like way worse than Avengers or something like that. Because there's lots of flying, lots of fast movement. And I guess it's more like close up. Whereas
it's also more shaky.
Yeah.
His film, his camera, his cinematography, it's just, in the action sequences, it's like, things are happening. So I get that.
Why did they even need to do reshoots? They just like shake a camera in front of like a picture of Batman and Superman, and it would have been fine. But yeah.
Boo that man.
I know.
I love Zack Snyder. All right. So Wonder Woman, 1984.
Yep.
Whew. All right. So, fellas, your initial thoughts, Chad.
Let me be generous and try and say some good things and bad things about it. Overall, not a big fan of the movie. I think there's a couple of things they could have done with it just to have made it better. I think it was way too long. I watched it with a friend of mine, and literally like 50 minutes into it, we were looking at each other like, do we even understand what the point of this movie is? Like, it just, there's so much setup, like to set up the bad guys and catch people up on who Wonder Woman was in relation to society and that kind of stuff. And
right.
And they were trying to make the moral lesson of her taking shortcuts by doing the first scene of her as a little girl, and then how that was going to apply, which I think that was actually a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it was educated. I just don't think it was executed very well. Like the idea of doing the foreshadowing of her as a girl and that moral lesson, and you could see it was about to play out later in the story. I thought was awesome. That's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
But I just think there was just so much time in between that first sequence and then that actually applying like 2.5 hours later in the movie that it just kind of got lost. So I think there's a lot of potentially great things about this movie. I just don't think it was executed very well. And I mean, we'll probably talk more about details, but that was my initial.
I will say this before we go forward. Behind every great movie, behind every atrocious movie, there is a team of creative people who are working their butts off.
Yeah.
And who really believe in what they're doing and are excited about it. And so from here on out, in the Dastardly Dingoes, we want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Like, just because we don't think a movie is good, first of all, doesn't mean it's actually not good. It just means we didn't like it.
Yeah.
But second of all, it doesn't discount all of the hard work that goes into it, because all of us are indie creators and we understand that level of hard work that goes into doing a creative endeavor. So our hats off to the people who work on movies that just end up not really turning out that great. Yeah. And unfortunately, from the masses, it sounds like Wonder Woman 1984 was one of those. So Jeremy, go ahead. Your initial thoughts.
I think generally I like movies more than most people. Meaning like there are some terrible movies that other people think are terrible that I'm like, that was a fine movie. You know, I feel like sometimes people put way too much or have way too high expectations out of every single movie that they see.
I will agree with you there for sure.
Like I like the Expendables movies.
Oh yeah.
Are they going to win any awards? No. Do they make any sense? No. You know, like is it groundbreaking cinematography? No. But it's just shiny and fun, and like all your favorite people are just like shooting people and kicking them in the face, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Same with like Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense? Absolutely not. They freaking jumped a car from one building to another building. But you know what I mean? Like they outran a submarine on a lake covered in ice. Like it just doesn't make any sense, but I just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride. And I think I do that for most people. All that to say, I didn't hate Wonder Woman. There are definitely some things that I would have done differently, but I thought it was a fine movie.
Okay.
It's all right.
Cool. Yeah.
That's
I would say, and I can say a little bit, just the first half hour, 45 minutes that I saw, I don't think it does. I don't think it deserved the amount of hate that it got. I think I did not enjoy what I watched. Really, it was. I think because the first one was so good.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost because like you used like Fast and the Furious and the Expendables, but like we know what those movies are going into it, right? Like, you know, you go to a Fast and the Furious movie, you're expecting ridiculousness. Like, you're expecting off the wall, crazy stunts that make absolutely no sense. But going into Wonder Woman 1984, people didn't expect that.
Right.
People expected Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And Justice, well, not the atrocity that we got in theaters, but like the just the established Gal Gadot Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
We expected that.
Yeah.
And from what I saw,
I cried several times in the first Wonder Woman movie.
Right. Like it was so good. Yeah. So good. The trenches scene was amazing. It was awesome. Yeah. The whole film was great. From what I saw in the first 45 minutes of Wonder Woman was like they went, it was like they took that and they went the Batman and Robin direction.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, let's just make this a fun, hokey movie.
Yeah. It's like if Christopher Nolan made Batman and Robin after The Dark Knight.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
You're like,
exactly.
What in the world?
Yes.
Where
and like,
have we gone?
Right. And so like now going back, like I can watch Batman and Robin and have a blast. Yeah. Right. Like you can have a lot of fun watching Mr. Freeze and all his ice puns and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and it's what good the dinosaur? The Ice Age. Best line in any movie. I don't care what you say. But like that's fun for me.
Yeah.
But and even like from Batman Forever to Batman and Robin, you still kind of got like Batman Forever was super cheesy and then they just doubled down. Yeah. But like the stark contrast between Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984 was just like 180, completely the opposite in tone, completely the opposite in everything. And it was just so, and like I didn't even watch the whole thing, but I got all of that from the first 30 to 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
So it surprised me more than anything else. That was my initial like, wow. Like it just.
How did one director make both of those movies?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
And there are a lot of rumors that, well, and apparently Jeff Johns, which we can get into at another point in time. I don't think Jeff Johns should be allowed near movies ever again because he did Green Lantern. He did the reshoots of the theatrical cut of Justice League. He was put in charge of that, and he co-wrote and co-produced Wonder Woman 1984. I think we can finally say Jeff Johns is not a good filmmaker. He's great at comics. Dude is an amazing comic book writer. Absolutely. Don't let him near movies because every movie I've ever seen with his name attached is not good.
Yeah.
I felt like Wonder Woman 84 had a very Green Lantern feel to it.
It did. It really did.
It's like
I have a feeling it's because of Jeff Johns. Yeah. I just do. I don't know, but I mean his name's all over the movie, so I feel like that's probably the case. Yeah. Yeah, that was my initial thoughts. So, okay, let's jump in. Chad, what did this movie mean to you?
You know what it meant to me? I saw this with a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a little while, and it was a good bonding time between friends to talk about this movie, the things we didn't like about it, and the things we didn't like about it. So it was, I'll tell you what, I will say this. I think there was a really powerful moment where Wonder Woman had to let go of, I forget his name, Chris Pine's character. Steve Trevor. Yeah, there's a scene in which she had to decide to renounce that wish of having him and had to walk away.
Yeah.
And that was a really powerful scene to think about, like, for the greater good, she had to give up that, you know? and how difficult something like that is.
Yeah.
So there were definite highlights in the movie that were really impactful. But for me, that was the thing I took away about, how as a superhero, but then also as just a normal person, a lot of times you have to sacrifice your personal desires in order to serve other people. Like that's huge. So,
yeah. Jeremy.
What it meant to me, it further drove home that CG doesn't win over practical effects ever. That's what it means to me.
Yeah.
It's another nail in the coffin, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just another example of a terrible movie, or not terrible movie, an okay movie that used so much CG. They did like they went the Cats route with with the what is her character like?
Her name is Chitara. Or Cheetah. It's just Cheetah. That's what it is. Yeah, Chitara is a different thing.
They went the Cats route with her, and it looked like garbage, and really took me out of the story from that point on.
Yeah. I've never really been a huge fan of the villain Cheetah from the comics because of that. Because even in the comics, I felt like she was always kind of silly looking. It's just I never really, like, when I saw her, I was never intimidated. It was never like I feel like in every rendition of the character that I've read, I'm sure there's a better version out there. It seems like her character always fell flat, which I will say, Kristen Wiig did not fall flat.
No,
in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
She actually, and this is what this movie meant to me was, don't typecast actors.
Yeah.
Because Kristen Wiig did a fantastic job. I was able to kind of sneak around and see some other clips of her later in the movie.
Yep. I
was so impressed with her performance, which I've heard a lot of people say. That a lot of people that did not like this movie, they were like, she's the only good part. And I would say, like, I learned this lesson with The Dark Knight. When Heath Ledger was announced as the Joker, I was livid. I was so mad. I was so, like, grumpy all the time. When anybody would bring it up, be like, oh, because I mean, I love the movie 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
But I would not choose anybody in that cast to be the Joker.
Right.
I just wouldn't. He was the pretty boy. He was good at what he did. I loved him in the movies that I saw him in, but he was just not the Joker. And then I saw the first trailer, and it shut me up hard.
Yep.
And so from now on, whenever somebody gets announced in a role, I wait.
Yep.
And judge off their performance, because at the end of the day, they're actors. That's their profession.
Yeah.
They act. They jump into a role and they portray that role. That's why when everybody was like, oh my gosh, Robert Pattinson's going to be terrible as Batman. No, I don't think so. I mean, especially now that you've seen the trailer, you see him beat up that clown gang member. That's Batman. Sorry. And his voice was great. I felt like his voice was better than Christian Bale's.
Yeah.
But that's what this movie again did, is they took, and yes, I kind of feel like she was in kind of the shadow of Jim Carrey's Riddler, just not as goofy.
Okay.
They kind of had the exact same story arc, which happens so many times in superhero movies. It's like a trope that, like, the nerdy glasses wearing person who works for or with the main protagonist ends up having some kind of horrible accident that turns them into a supervillain, and then for some reason becoming a supervillain just cures vision problems. Yeah. And I want to know how that happens, because every single movie where a nerd is wearing glasses and then becomes a supervillain, all of a sudden they don't need glasses anymore. And I'm like, what about this decision in your life makes you not need glasses? And that's all I want to know, really, about out of life. That's it. That's my question.
That question is actually answered in this movie. because they talk about the fact.
Oh, is it? I didn't see that part. What? Tell me. Impart to me your wisdom, sir.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact words, but basically they talked about how when she started receiving her powers, like it
enhanced everything.
It enhanced everything about her, so to where she was like, there was a scene where she took the glass off. Oh, I don't even need these anymore. It's like that kind of thing. But
gotcha.
Because cats, right? Cats can see good. So she doesn't need glasses anymore.
I love because cats. It's the same thing with Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Yeah, exact same thing. She was bitten by kitty cats in the alley after she died.
And then she made a suit out of garbage bags.
Yeah.
It's like that's not a garbage bag. I'm sorry.
It wasn't a garbage bag. It was a leather jacket. But that's another question: is how did you get enough material out of one jacket to make an entire leotard?
Yeah,
that covered your whole body. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say real quick on the two things. One, piggybacking off what Jeremy said, you run into that with comic books a lot too, where you were saying about CGI. If the pencil work is not really that great, there's no amount of inking or coloring that can fix that. And I see it all the time where they try to almost over color something because the pencils themselves are not that great. And even in pencil drawing itself, if you don't have the foundations down correctly, whether it's proportion or perspective or any of that, like it doesn't matter how flashy everything else is, you're not going to be able to cover up those foundational things. So I thought it was a great point about the CGI, because you're exactly right. It's like you can't fix things that are not correct up front with a little splash of color or whatever, So
I feel like that was a fancy way of you saying you can't fix stupid.
Pretty much. And unfortunately, you see that a lot of times where like artists want to take shortcuts, and instead of spending the years of learning how to draw, they'll just cover it up with effects, and you just can't do it. And then the other thing, the perfect thing about Kristen Wiig, and I feel this about Tina Fey as well. They both can play that like.
I thought he was pausing.
I did too.
It's like, wow, this is dramatic.
I did too. After it lasted about 5 seconds, I was like, uh-oh.
Did you die?
Are you having a stroke? What happened? Chad, if you can hear us, you are so frozen.
Yep. And
it's actually kind of an entertaining image. You should screenshot that, and that should be our promo.
Okay.
No, what I was saying was with those two women, like they have this perfect combination of, on one side they can be super nerdy, but on the other side they can be quite attractive. Like they're just weird. Like that's why I think she was the perfect woman for that role, because they needed both sides of that coin. And I feel like I might have a secret crush on both of them, because I think like they're both very attractive, but they're also very funny, and they're kind of nerdy as well. So I felt like she was the perfect person for that role, because they needed that type of actor, and an actor at that level too. Yeah, I think she did.
I can see that.
She did a great job. Yeah,
for sure. All right, well, let's get to my favorite part, is the score of the movie. Jeremy, what were your thoughts?
It was good. I mean, it didn't it didn't blow me away. They didn't do anything different. I do like the Amazonian music. Yeah. You know what I mean? I like that in terms of a theme song, right? Yeah. Like that's an okay theme song. Right? It doesn't it's not, I don't know, it doesn't do anything spectacular, but the Wonder Woman's music, it's pretty intense, and it kind of creates that emotion, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I that was honestly the thing that stuck out to me the most from what I saw was the music. I love Hans Zimmer, and I thought he did a really good job with the first 45 minutes of the movie. I really like the whole introduction. I thought the music was great, and the music didn't feel cheesy. At least his music didn't feel cheesy. It didn't feel overused. It stuck out when it needed to, and it blended into the background well too. So yeah.
It's my least favorite Hans Zimmer thing
of everything he's ever done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I don't know that I've seen everything that he's ever done, but of the things that I've seen where he is the composer, that's my least favorite.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's not his strongest, I would say, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was. From what I've seen and heard, I feel like the score was probably better than the movie itself.
Sure,
maybe
that's a thought that people can have.
Chad, let's listen to somebody who isn't a rude so and so.
Here's a thought that someone could have. I really didn't pay attention to the soundtrack. I'll be honest with you. Like, I didn't even think to listen
because
to it.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, I love Hans Zimmer, as you guys do, and listen to him in the background when I'm drawing and stuff like that, especially his soundtracks. But if it were up there like on YouTube and I had to choose between which one, this wouldn't be the one that I would pick. It wasn't anything that stood out to me like, wow, this is amazing. I was missing her like it was kind of in there, but in Batman vs Superman when she shows up and the drum thing, that was not in there. Like that's what I want.
That wasn't even Hans Zimmer. That was Junkie XL.
Well,
yeah,
good. But yeah, I missed that. So the rest of it, wasn't really noteworthy to me. So.
Yeah, I would say, okay, like if we're going to compare this movie to his other movies, it's definitely not as good. But I thought the music was good. I mean, and maybe it was just the movie was so bad that I thought the music was so wonderful, and I felt like it did not belong. Yeah. Is that better?
When the credits rolled and it said Hans Zimmer, I was like,
really?
Like that was my response.
Yeah, you're like, oh, well, okay then. This is
way to phone it in, Hans.
Or the music was so good because it blended in with the movie that it wasn't like it matched the movie. So it wasn't one of those things that stood out and was noticeable, which I think is probably the sign of a good soundtrack.
In the words of Jeremy, that is a thought that someone could have.
That is, and it's a thought that I just had. So
indeed, exactly.
I get what you're saying. There's some times where the music doesn't need to be at the forefront. And there's a lot of times whenever I'm playing music that I stop playing because it's not called for. And I think that's a technique that a lot of musicians don't have. They think, well, I'm in the band, I'm going to play every second of every song. And it's like, you don't always have to play every second of every song. What happens when you drop out is that it is heard loud and clear, especially for me playing rhythm electric guitar. Like if that's missing and then all of a sudden it comes in, like that makes a bigger impact than if I was playing the whole time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying.
All right, cool. So did this movie set out to tell the story that it wanted to, Chad? I think you already answered this, but
well, if I could figure out what the story was that they're trying to tell, then maybe I could answer this.
Right.
But I think
the world may never know.
I think it did in some cases, and in other cases it didn't. I know that's a very generous, generic answer, but
yeah,
it did some things well, and other things it just was way too long, too convoluted, too much, trying to do too much. I think a lot of the movies run into a problem when they have too many characters going on. I feel like they could have just had one bad guy instead of having two. I don't understand why movies feel the need to have multiple bad guys.
Because Tim Burton did it in Batman Returns.
Yeah, and
I feel like that's the only answer. Like nobody did that before he did.
Yeah.
And then it was like from then on, everybody after the first one, you had to have two villains.
Yeah. See, I feel like even though Kristen Wiig did a great job, I feel like the Wishmaker as a character was really an awesome concept. And I think you could have, I think Pedro Pascal was a little over the top, but I think his character could have really sold the show. Like that idea of tell me your wish, and then he's able to take something from you as well. It's a brilliant idea.
Well, in the comics, he's a brilliant character.
Yeah.
Maxwell Lord.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
once again, that's a great idea, just poorly executed. I mean, that's what I keep going back to in this movie. It's like there's so much potential there. It just wasn't done well.
Well, I mean, and I think that's the big thing, because like there is so much potential because you have 70 to 80 years of character development poured into these comic books. And I think that's what's so frustrating with a lot of people with these movies is you have all of this to pull from, and that's what you come up with. And not only that, but you sit there and think it's not just one person. Like everyone puts everything on the director, but you've got a room full of people that are watching this movie and making decisions. You don't think at some point someone could have said, hey, Cheetah's face looks horrible.
Yeah.
No one had the guts to stand up and say, this is a bad move. Let's redo it. Or like in Justice League, hey, Superman's face without a mustache looks horrible. This is we're putting millions of dollars into this movie, and that's what you're going to come up with. Like no one had the guts to stand up and say that.
Well, and I think a big thing, like if what we're hearing now with Ray Fisher coming out and saying a lot of stuff, and other like crew members and cast members of the reshoots of Justice League, apparently how it goes down at Warner Brothers is if you say, which probably more than just Warner Brothers, but if you do stand up and say, hey, this sucks, you're gone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because you also got to deal the big bad, the big villain of every good storyteller is a movie studio who is packed full of executive producers who know nothing about storytelling, but they know a lot about making money.
Yeah.
And so that, because it's a business, I mean, that makes sense. It is a business. You need to be smart about, running your business well. But when executive producers who don't know how to tell a story take over and tell a story, you get things like Suicide Squad. You get things like the reshoots of, the theatrical cut of Justice League. It's stuff that just seems to be thrown together and has no real purpose. It's because people that don't know how to tell a story are jumping in and taking control, and they just need to let the storytellers do what they are good at.
Yeah.
So I think that may be what happened here to some degree. Maybe not. Maybe it was just everybody tried to have a fun movie, and that's not what anybody wanted.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because a lot of people there's a quote. I love this quote as to why so many people did not like Batman versus Superman. And it's by Mark Bernardin from Fat Man on Batman, or Fat Man Beyond now. And he said that everyone wanted, or Zack Snyder gave everybody heavy metal when everyone wanted pop.
Yeah.
And that's why they didn't like it. It wasn't because it wasn't good. It was because he gave people something that they didn't expect and they didn't want.
Yeah.
And I think that the reverse happened here.
Yeah.
Is you gave them sugar-coated junk food that in some contexts are great popcorn flick movies like Fast and the Furious, Expendables, but that's not what anybody wanted. They wanted what we got from Wonder Woman. So I think that's really what ultimately went wrong here.
Yeah.
So, all right. Favorite moments. I know there were some. Chad, you kind of mentioned one already.
Yeah, that scene where she had to let Steve go. I did like the lasso. I know a lot of people made fun of it because they used it a lot, especially in the first scene. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was a cool, kind of a cool thing that they did, especially when she lassoed the lightning.
I thought that was cool, man. I liked it. I thought that was fun.
I thought that was a really awesome scene. And then when she lassoed the missile, and that whole scene was really, I liked it. It's just fun comic book stuff.
Yeah. There is a part where she lassos a cloud. That was questionable.
When she learned how to fly, right?
Yeah. But I was like, that's not how clouds work.
Yeah.
I mean, water. But that is true. That lassos also don't do that. So,
it's funny that you would say that, and I mentioned this before the show, is the that it's interesting the things that we can suspend. Like,
yeah.
When you think about who Wonder Woman is, first of all, that for some reason in our mind that's okay, but Steve coming back from the dead like 40 or 50 years before, and then all of a sudden being able to just hop into a fighter jet and
know everything about it.
Now I know how to fly it.
This is the same as a World War II plane.
World War I.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
For some reason, I could not get over that. I'm like, dude, he would not be able to do that. He'd not be able to. He'd probably be able
not the same.
He's like all of a sudden he's fascinated by the fact that there's subways and airplanes, but then all of a sudden he can get in a fighter jet and he just knows what he's doing. And on top of that, the fact that they had to go fly. It's funny. My friend and I looked this up. They had to go fly to, I think it was Egypt or something like that. And the plane that they were flying in doesn't have enough fuel to make it there. But for some reason they were able to do it. And to think that, like, what's he going to do? Land, like refuel in the sky? Like they've never done that before, but I'm sure he'd just be able to magically know how to do it. Yeah. So it's like, it's stuff like that where it's just weird. My friend and I talked about that. Like it's funny how you can suspend your sense of reality on one hand, but then on the other hand, you can't. And I think because if you start suspending reality when it comes to like everyday things, like the way gravity works and the way common sense works, then you end up with like a nonsensical movie. Like you still need a world that operates similar to the world that we live in, but in order to be able to stretch some other things. But if you stretch everything, then all of a sudden you're left with a mess of like, oh, now all of a sudden we can lasso a cloud. Like, how does that work? So.
And I think if you go back to world building, you establish rules within the world that you're telling your story. And then if you break those rules, the story no longer makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think about something like, what the heck is his name? Benedict Cumberbatch's character.
Wait, hold on. What
was that?
What did you just call him?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Okay, I heard a V as in Victor.
No,
Benedict, and I was like, that is not his name.
What's his Marvel character?
Doctor Strange.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that movie is one of those that tried to like stretch a whole lot of things, and I feel like there was like one thing that grounded it, and it was Rachel McAdams. Was she?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It was her character. She was the one that like constantly was like humanizing this now godlike creature that can bend everything.
Yeah.
Essentially. You know what I mean? Like he could do that, but then there's the scene when they're in the closet and the cape is flying everywhere, and she's like, she brings him back down to earth, I guess. If that does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it needed something like that to like humanize it. I think that's what you're saying. I think we're all saying the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was saying to your example in Doctor Strange, in the beginning of the movie, when the buildings are like bending on each other and all that, and they're running up the sides of it and all that kind of stuff, they eventually come back down to regular gravity. Like there's always a return back to here's the real world. And it's not until you have that, then you can start stretching everything. And it's just when you start breaking those fundamental rules, makes it
right. Like if it was like if you establish like they did in Doctor Strange, that when you go to the world of Inception, which is essentially what happened there, like when that happens, you've established that gravity doesn't work the same way. We don't even explain how gravity works. So you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But like Chad said, if you go back to regular Earth, which is established that it is regular, that gravity is here, and then you do the same things, well, then that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah. Jeremy, what was your favorite moment?
The end. No. No, I think Kristen Wiig was probably the best part of the movie. She did a great job. So
cool. All right. Well, I won't go into least favorite moments because I feel like that's just pretty much the whole movie. Unless you guys have one that sticks out to you.
No. Yeah.
I think for me it was lassoing the cloud.
Yeah.
Because that was the part I think, and I didn't even watch that in the movie itself. I just saw different clips, just trying to look for stuff, and that physically angered me.
Yep.
When I saw that, I was like, "But how?" Like,
but here again, it's funny I didn't bring this up before, but you're okay with her lassoing the lightning?
Don't bring your logic here. Okay, I don't.
Lightning is not solid.
I know. Here's the thing. It makes no sense, but it's okay because this movie's bad. So, no, you're right. The only reason that I like the lightning thing is because it looks cool.
Yeah.
The lassoing the cloud, actually, I didn't think looked cool either.
Yeah.
It just looks silly.
I will agree with that.
But there's no such thing as magic lassos, so you could just say it can do both. All right, guys. So let's do it. Let's rate this thing. Jeremy.
Movie rental.
Well, first of all, for everyone who hasn't seen our reviews yet, we have a review rating of premiere night, matinee, dollar theater, movie rental, avoid it or kill it with fire. So Jeremy, you're saying movie rental, so you still think it's worth watching?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they did just enough good things for it to be worth your watch.
Yeah.
Just don't spend any more than $1 for it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Chad.
Yeah, I go in between movie rental and avoid it. Just because, yeah, you're right. You spend $1 or whatever and rent it on Amazon Prime or whatever. But at the same time, there's so many other good movies you could watch instead that I don't even know if it's worth the time. Like, you need to see it. It's one of those, like, I don't have anything else to do. There's no other movies I really want to watch. Well, I'll just watch this one, I guess.
I have no, life is not worth living. No, I agree with you, Chad. I'm in between movie rental and avoid it, mostly because I feel like I lived that. I literally did start watching it, so it was worth my watch, and then I stopped watching it, and avoided it. So, sorry, Wonder Woman 84, you didn't get good ratings. You can't win them all. That's okay. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in, and remember to hit like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also, hit that bell to get notified when we have a new episode. And as always, have fun, be safe, and don't wait for this week to be yours. Make it so. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.